The rain hammered against the windows of my small apartment in Seattle, mirroring the tempest inside me. Barnaby, a 44-year-old architect, had always prided myself on my meticulous nature, my ability to see the underlying structure in everything. But I'd missed the crumbling foundation of my own marriage. It started subtly. Gemma, my wife of 15 years, a vibrant landscape designer, began working late more frequently. "Big project at the botanical gardens," she'd explain, her eyes flitting away from mine. I loved and trusted her implicitly, so I never questioned it. We'd met at an architectural convention in Chicago, two creative souls drawn together by a shared passion for design and a mutual appreciation for good wine. Our life in Seattle was a testament to our shared vision, a cozy craftsman home filled with her lush plants and my minimalist furniture, a blend of our personalities that I found endlessly charming. Then came the phone calls. Gemma would rush out of the room, her voice hushed and secretive. "It's just work," she'd say when I asked, a tight smile plastered on her face. I tried to ignore the knot forming in my stomach, the insidious whisper of doubt that grew louder each day. The final blow came on our anniversary. I'd planned a romantic dinner at our favorite restaurant, the Pink Door, overlooking Puget Sound. Gemma arrived late, her hair slightly disheveled, her apologies rushed and unconvincing. "I'm so sorry, Barnaby. I had a meeting that ran over." During dinner, she was distant, preoccupied. She barely touched her food and kept glancing at her phone. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "Gemma, what's going on?" she sighed, her eyes welling up with tears. "I don't know how to say this," she began, her voice trembling. "I've met someone else." The world tilted. The clatter of the restaurant faded into a distant hum. I stared at her, my mind struggling to process the words. "Who?" I managed to croak out. "His name is Quentin. He's a contractor I'm working with on the Botanical Gardens project." Quentin. The name felt like a shard of glass lodged in my throat. I knew Quentin. He was arrogant, boastful, everything I wasn't. He was the kind of man Gemma usually scoffed at. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "A few months," she admitted, her eyes downcast. "I didn't mean for it to happen, it just did." "Did," I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. So all those late nights, the phone calls, I trailed off, the pieces falling into place with brutal clarity. I stood up abruptly, knocking over my wine glass. The red liquid spread across the tablecloth like a stain, a perfect metaphor for what Gemma had done to our marriage. "I can't do this," I said, my voice shaking. "I need to leave." I walked out of the restaurant, leaving Gemma sitting there alone, the rain lashing against my face as I stumbled through the streets of Seattle. I felt numb, hollowed out. 15 years gone. Our dreams, our plans, shattered like that wine glass. The next few weeks were a blur of legal paperwork, tearful phone calls with friends, and sleepless nights spent staring at the ceiling. I moved into a small, sterile apartment downtown, a far cry from our cozy home. Every object, every photograph reminded me of Gemma, of what we had lost. Or rather, what she had thrown away. I tried to understand. I replayed our marriage in my head, searching for clues, for signs I had missed. Had I been too focused on my work? Had I not been attentive enough? But the truth was, I had loved her, cherished her. I had given her my heart, and she had stomped all over it. One evening, a few weeks after the separation, I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering. "Hello, Barnaby, it's Quentin." His voice was smug, self-satisfied. "I just wanted to let you know that Gemma is much happier now. She's finally with a real man." A surge of rage coursed through me, so intense it felt like I might explode. "You bastard," I spat out. "You ruined my marriage." "Ruined," he chuckled. "Please, your marriage was already on the rocks. I just gave Gemma the push she needed." I slammed the phone down, my hands shaking. Quentin's words echoed in my head, fueling my anger, my resentment. I couldn't let him get away with this. I couldn't let him and Gemma waltz off into the sunset while I was left to pick up the pieces. I decided to fight back. I started by hiring a private investigator, a gruff, no-nonsense woman named Eddie. "I want you to dig up everything you can on Quentin," I told her. "I want to know his secrets, his weaknesses." Eddie got to work, and within a few days she had uncovered a treasure trove of information. It turned out that Quentin wasn't just an arrogant contractor. He was a crooked one. He had a history of cutting corners, using substandard materials and bribing city officials to get his projects approved. He was also deeply in debt, owing money to several shady individuals. Armed with this information, I decided to expose him. I contacted the local news station and arranged an anonymous interview. I presented them with the evidence Eddie had gathered, outlining Quentin's illegal activities in detail. The story aired a few days later, causing a massive scandal. Quentin's company was immediately shut down and he was facing multiple investigations. His reputation was ruined, his career in tatters. I watched the news report with a grim satisfaction. It wasn't enough to erase the pain Gemma had caused, but it was a start. At least Quentin was getting what he deserved. But my revenge didn't stop there. I also decided to go after Gemma. I knew that she had been complicit in Quentin's schemes, turning a blind eye to his illegal activities. I contacted her employers at the botanical gardens and informed them of her involvement. They were appalled. Gemma was immediately suspended and her future at the gardens was uncertain. She called me, sobbing, begging me to stop. "Barnaby, please," she pleaded. "You're ruining my life. You ruined mine first," I said, my voice cold. "Now you're facing the consequences of your actions." I hung up, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and regret. I had gotten my revenge, but it hadn't brought me the peace I had hoped for. The pain was still there, a dull ache in my chest. Then one evening Eddie called me with more information. "I've been digging into Gemma's finances," she said, "and I found something interesting. It seems she's been transferring large sums of money to an offshore account for the past few months." "Where did the money come from?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "From Quentin," Eddie replied. "He was paying her to keep quiet about his illegal activities. She was his accomplice, Barnaby. She was in on it the whole time." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. Gemma hadn't just cheated on me, she had betrayed me in the worst possible way. She had used our marriage as a shield, as a cover for her own greed and deceit. I decided to confront her. I drove to her apartment, my hands clenched on the steering wheel. When she opened the door, her face was pale and drawn. "Barnaby," she said, her voice trembling. "What do you want?" "I know about the money, Gemma," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "I know you were working with Quentin." She didn't deny it. She just stood there, her eyes filled with shame and regret. "I'm sorry, Barnaby," she whispered. "I made a mistake." "A mistake," I repeated, my voice rising. "You betrayed me, Gemma. You lied to me, you used me. You destroyed our marriage for money." I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there alone, the rain pouring down around her. I knew that I could have reported her to the authorities, that I could have ensured she faced criminal charges. But I didn't. I realized that the best revenge was to simply walk away, to leave her to live with the consequences of her choices. I moved on with my life. I focused on my work, on my friends, on rediscovering who I was without Gemma. It wasn't easy. There were days when the pain was overwhelming, when I felt like I would never be happy again. But I persevered. I learned to forgive myself for trusting her, for believing in her. And slowly, gradually, I began to heal. Years later, I heard that Gemma had lost everything. Quentin had fled the country, leaving her to face the music. She had been convicted of fraud and money laundering and had served a prison sentence. When she was released, she had no money, no job, and no friends. She was a pariah, shunned by everyone who had once known her. I felt a pang of sadness for her, but I didn't regret my actions. She had made her choices and she had to live with them. I had survived, I had rebuilt my life. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all.